Okay, on ERC formula, which is very much purely to do with the Kenyan environment, I would ask maybe David to respond to.
There is still a lot going on with the formula. While fundamentals are there, prices are going up in a big way, even as we are sitting now. It's still moving upwards. So we are unhappy. Was not much consultation. On the other hand, prices are very high because of the fundamentals. So we are still addressing it with DRC.
What I must say on the formula and the pricing is that we all remember that it has been, or it was a very wrong process in setting the price, which originated from a misconceived idea both by the government and the public that the oil companies were making a windfall gain in margins. And therefore, the genesis of capping the prices was based on the desire that the companies or your company was making a windfall gain. That notwithstanding, we need to appreciate that when it came into being and was set up, various fundamental aspects were not put in place. One, there should have been an understanding that prices and price setting is a very complex phenomenon, especially in Kenya, where we have divergent people or people with different purchasing powers. And therefore, as the prices were being set with little or no consultation from the oil companies, it had or it has a tendency of equating the Kenyans. You do remember that when we were having this, you would find prices in Western Kenya quite lower than Nairobi. And therefore, the consideration here that we were making is that the Lulo community, where we have a lot of agricultural activities taking place, required to be supported for the sake of the nation. Secondly, it is in these areas that we have our brothers and sisters that require a lot of support. So with the setting of the price, this is what now you find that there is a disparity, and in those areas, that is what is happening. I must say, therefore, that we do anticipate that the government will cut down on taxes as they have started doing, and control the prices by foregoing the taxation on this issue. Thank you.
First, we as KenolKobil Group Management do not believe is the right move. It is very retrogressive, very much contrary to the open market philosophy. But there is some upside here, which makes the oil industry life slightly easier, because by introducing this price formula in a way, the government attracted the attention of the people and actually took most of the blame in this very volatile environment. For the last, I would say, if you look at the record, since September last year, all the way to April, including April this month, prices are just going up, 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 up. So now we don't need to explain much, because the price formula, which by the way is gazetted, and the formula cannot be changed. Yes, it has been enacted. The price formula factors immediately these changes in the international market, and of course exchange rate and so on. So we don't have to explain why we are increasing prices anymore. Okay? And I'm sure you noticed that, you know, all attempts to bring down prices through all sort of players or you know, a government parastatals in the oil industry have not succeeded, because all these prices at the end of the day are driven by external factors which are beyond anyone control. So I see some interesting aspects to it, and I'm sure you noticed that the oil industry, as much as David said, we are unhappy with it, there are some interesting aspects to it, and we are now, kind of behind the government. The government is the one that's supposed to explain what's going on with the oil prices going up so fast and so much. Okay, then your last question was quite interesting, and I must say we do as well see that aspect of managing this volatile environment as the most complex aspect of our business. It's not that it's been going up. We know very well, being in the oil industry for many years, that it can come down as well. And it can come down in a very steep move. And that can be a very bloody to players in the downstream. Remind you, we were there. If you recall, and it's not a secret, you know very well that in the first half of 2009, your company made a loss. Why? Because that was the effect of the sharp drop in July 2008 that went all the way down up to actually September, let's say throughout the 2009. But somehow we managed it. So we know very well that it is very difficult to handle this aspect. But you are in good hands. The management and the board are all very much focused on it. One aspect that we know very well, inventories level and the storage facilities are critical to successful handling of this situation, and that's why the company, the group, has been focusing on increasing its total storage capacity. Even in Kenya, we made a very strategic decision sometime back last year, and I wouldn't say acquired, but we leased a terminal, additional terminal, which of course put us in a better situation in Kenya and in subsidiaries. Then you asked about the segmentations. The first question was on segmentations and what is the difference between Kenya and others. There is the Kenya inland and there is the Kenya others, okay? In the inland, there are mainly retail, resale, and commercial within Kenya itself. In others, we have quite a number of business lines lumped some together, and there are trading, aviation, lubricants, LPG, non-fuels, and so on, okay? So I think this answers your questions on the definition of the two segments. Now, on subsidiaries, you mentioned that subsidiaries profit dropped. Let me ask Pat to respond to that. But you need to take note that Forex issue as a cost item is not exclusive to Kenya. It is as well in subsidiaries, especially in some countries in East Africa like Uganda, Tanzania, where we suffered again Forex loss. But Ms. Pat, like to answer you.
There was a drop in profitability, but the main impact that the subsidiaries suffered, in fact, was the exchange losses. The whole East Africa region, I think last year, really suffered quite severely, and notably on Uganda and Tanzania were the two biggest hit subsidiaries. We also experienced some very bad price wars in Uganda, so that affected the performance as well. In terms of the new subsidiary that came on board of Burundi, which was operating quite well in 2010, whilst they performed well, the tax regime there is very punitive. They tax us 1% of the turnover, which is really very punitive. So whilst the subsidiary does well, a lot of the profitability gets eaten away by tax. So all in all, the performance of the subsidiaries were good besides the two impact that we saw on it.
The business environment, especially in Uganda, is what used to be in Kenya in the late 90s, early 2000. Very competitive, many independents. If you recall the days where you can find oil coming from a window of a house in Nairobi, it is exactly the same in Uganda and Tanzania today. Very competitive, very difficult environment, but we know very well it's a cycle. We have seen it in the past. Things are changing with time, and stability comes into the market. And we know very well that there are other business lines in such environment that you need to focus on and generate the profit or income from them, and that's what we've been doing in Uganda: gas, LPG, non-fuel, bitumen, all sorts of business lines that may not be affected as much in such a competitive environment. The same in Tanzania. Yeah, and then there is another aspect. Of course, the inventories level, the ability to stock in your subsidiaries products in this environment of oil prices going up. If you have the storage, and that's what we have done recently in Uganda. We acquired another depot for one reason: to be able to store sufficient product to capitalize in a rising market, to capitalize on revaluation in such a rising market. And the Tanzanian depot, of course, I'm sure, maybe I just mention it now. We issued yesterday a press release and then notice or advice to all shareholders. This is another reason, by the way, all should leave your email address, because then you'll be online with the company, and communication will be immediately to you. We managed to conclude a great deal for the Tanzanian operation, a big terminal with 33 million liters storage capacity, with office block, with godowns, a great asset that will change as well the future profitability of this business in Tanzania. Okay, on the volume, and that was the second question. You said that we are only quoting or referring to the net sales and the cost of sales, whether the volume has gone up or down. The volume has gone down, but again, you need to go into the details and realize that mainly in the African trading desk, which is very much driven by tenders, international tenders or OTS, and one sector where the board made a decision to reduce our position, and that was in aviation. Aviation, remind you, in 2009 and 2008, we suffered a difficult time. Actually, we were losing in this sector, and the board made a decision to reduce our position in this sector. So the volume the volume lost was in these two segments. One of them was intentionally as a result of the board decision. The other one is very much driven by tenders, pricing, whether you have the supply in good time and so on.